So when I started coming out with this, I thought I would do something like a parody of the Game Awards, and I would be like, "Oh, I should have most anticipated game that turned out to be shit, most expensive recommended retail price, biggest gross profit, longest trailer," and then the joke kind of never got any funnier the more I actually wrote it. So I just thought I'd mention that here. One of the earliest games I played in the year, I think, was a game called Clawfish. It's really cool. It was just this like really sort of surreal. I don't want to call it a walking simulator because I think that phrase doesn't mean anything anymore, and you don't really walk that much. But you sort of just like go to this little fish farm. You get off a train. It's very like Ghibli, Studio Ghibli, however you pronounce it. You get off the train, and there's like this fish farm with all these little like claw machines, like the that you would get at like an arcade or whatever. And you just have to like play those machines, and inside them are just these like little aquariums full of fish. And you just get the fish out, and you have to release the fish, and that's sort of the game. And then once you release all the fish, you can leave. And yeah, it lasted maybe like 40 minutes. I think it was like $5 or something. I just really enjoyed it. It was really pleasant. It was just felt like an idea that someone had like had in a dream or something. That might just be the store description that he was like, or she, whoever made it, was just like, yeah, I had this in a dream. But it feels like a dream that someone had where they went to like a fish farm and then the fish were in claw machines. So yeah, check it out. I highly recommend it. The next one I played, I was like actually looking forward to this for a while. I had a wish listed. It's called A Day, or A Day. It's not the best name, and I think that may have something to do with the fact that no one I knew had played it. It's got some really nice pixel art, and it's kind of like it's that Pulp Fiction thing of like the same, like multiple different stories all happening at the same time. I know it's over kind of, passé to compare that to Pulp Fiction. A lot of films have done it, but that's what the game is about. But what's cool is that you'll play one story as one character, and then you play the next story, and you see the character you just played will be like doing stuff in the world, and you can. Yeah, like you'll do something as one character and open a door, and then another character can go in. What's cool is that the characters aren't just like all humans. You play like one human, then you play like a fish at one point. You play like a ball, I think just a lost ball at one point. Yeah, it's just really cool. I think it's worth it. It's about 2 hours long, and yeah, it's like kind of a puzzle platformer game. It's really cool. I like it. The next game I played was Koi Farm, which is basically just that. You run a little koi farm, and it's cool. It's just the fish, these koi fish, just kind of swim through a river. It's almost like an idle game. Fish just sort of swim through a river. You grab them, and you can put them in these little ponds. And if you put like multiple fish together in a pond, they'll breed, and you can get like different color combinations. So you get like an orange one and a black, like an orange speckled one and a black speckled one, and then you'll get, and they'll breed and get orange and black speckled, like, but on the same fish, orange and black. And it's just sort of like, nice and meditative. It's a good podcast game. Yeah, that's it. The next one is Wild 9. This is a sock pop game. If you know sock pop, then just go check it out. This is one of their more ambitious ones. It's sort of like an open world version of Desert Child, but you can get off your bike. But it's it's like a little hoverbike thing, and it was really cool because it's made in Game Maker using that sort of like layered 3D or like stacked 3D effect, and I really enjoyed it. It was pretty simple. Like all of Sock Pop's games, it comes with this like recommendation of like, oh look, it was made in like a month, and it's not very polished, and half the time they're not very fun either. But this one I think has a vibe to it, so check it out if you're interested. The next one I played was Takeshihiroshi. I don't think this came out in 2021. I've got it on the list here, and I think I might have messed up. but this was made by Oink Games, who are a micro board game developer from Japan, and they've made like a stack of these tiny little micro board games that you play, but they hadn't really made video games before. They have made a collection of their board games. I would not recommend playing that. I think just part of the appeal and the charm of them is owning these tiny little board games that fit into like your pocket. But Takeshihiroshi is this really cool game that is... It's related to a game I'm going to bring up later in this video, but it is... How do I explain it? It's sort of just like this little story about a brother and... two brothers. One of them is in hospital and one of them is a game developer. The older one's a game developer, and he's sort of like making this game for his little brother who's like, oh, I want to keep playing it, but like his mum's like, don't let him play it, he'll get overexcited and, you know, he'll pass out, it's not good for his health. It's just this like really sweet story, but the gameplay of it is really cool because it is an RPG where you're playing like the dungeon master basically, and you have to make sure that the younger brother can get through the dungeon without dying. And yeah, it's really charming. It's really simple, and it has this reliance on random chance, which a lot of people kind of said was bad. But like, look, without that, it's a game. It's a gaminess, you know, where you can be like, oh, can I speedrun this? Can I do that? And I think that the randomness is put in there just to be like, look, we just want to make sure that people aren't, you know, just playing this for the game. Like, I think it was almost there to like make the gameplay a little bit less, you know, strategic and fun, and just be like, look, we just want people to be able to just get through it or fail a few times, you know, because the story is what matters here. Oh, and aesthetically, it's really, really nice. It's got this stop motion sort of puppet effect. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think that might be like my favorite game of the year. It just warmed my heart. I played a game called Crumble, which is the best Sonic game ever made. Just go and check it out. It's a physics-based platformer where you're really like trying to keep your momentum going and stuff, and you play as this little blue blob, and you use his tongue as like a grappling hook. But what's cool is there are stages that'll like fall apart. Sorry, I just burped. They'll like fall apart dynamically, and you're kind of platforming on these like collapsing stages. And it's the kind of thing that you would never see Sonic Team, even like, they would never do it well, because they'd fuck it, because, you know, obviously, but also they just never do it because it just sounds like a difficult kind of innovative thing. So, yeah. Not to crap on Sonic Team too much, but like, come on, they kind of deserve it. And then Loop Hero. I don't like putting this one on the Not Game of the Year list. So I'm not going to actually. I'm going to take it off right now. Loop Hero is pretty good though. You should go play it. So these games didn't come out in 2021, but I played them in 2021, and I just thought they were really cool. So some of them are really old, and some of them are just kind of like from like 2019 or 2020, and I just sort of like missed them, or for whatever reason didn't get around to them, and it kind of sucks that they don't get repped because they are pretty small. First one is Rev, which is made by a pixel artist whose name I forget, but it's really cool. You kind of play as like a fox. It's got like a Shelter vibe, if you've ever played that, the badger game where you play as like a little mother badger, and you're sort of just like, it's kind of like, yeah, Shelter meets like Rain World or something, where you have to like return back to your den and stuff, and you have to hunt things in this really nice pixel art environment. It made me wonder why there aren't more games where you just like play as wild animals. I think Tokyo Jungle is like one of those games that just like really underappreciated as well. Sorry, changing completely to Tokyo Jungle, which is another game I played. The next game relates back to Takeshihiroshi, Dreeps. Now, I've forgotten the guy's name, but it was like a group of 3 guys made Dreeps. It is an alarm playing game. It came out in like 2015 on iOS and Japanese 3DS eShop. And it's basically an alarm that you set, and then when you... Oh, no, okay, no. Where do you start explaining this game? You have to, like... Oh man. Okay, so like these little. Sorry, Steve just walked in and I noticed him. So cut this part out, Oscar. Future Oscar. Um, there's like it's an RPG that you don't play, and it's almost like an idle game, except that there's not like a resource management or anything to it, and there's not like just a constant growth to it. But it's basically this little robot boy who has to kind of set out on this adventure every day and gets a little bit further every time. And when he can win battles, he can lose battles. He's got some stats, but you don't need to worry about them. And when he loses, you need to pick him up by tapping him. And then when he runs out of energy, because he's lost too many battles, he'll need to go to sleep. And at night, he'll need to go to sleep to replenish his energy. And what you do is you set an alarm, and that alarm then goes off and like wakes you up at the same time. So you sleep with the little boy. And it's super experimental, and it's the kind of thing a lot of people would just be like, what the fuck is this? And I've kind of talked a lot about it with some friends, and we're kind of saying like it's almost just like this procedural movie that you just play over the course of like a month or so, and you just see this little boy kind of just try to get to the end, and you know, I don't want to spoil what happens, but just kind of get to the end of his adventure. And yeah, it's pretty limited in terms of the interaction with it, but you know, that's it. There is a 3DS version, but it was only out on the Japanese eShop. If you have a Japanese 3DS, get it right now because it's about to disappear forever. I've played that one as well, and it is probably the better version of the game. It's unfortunate that the pixel art gets a little bit mushed up because of the 3DS resolution. But aside from that, yeah. I mean, look, just play the iOS version. You're not missing out on anything massively important in the Japanese version, especially if you don't speak Japanese. Super Crush KO was a game I played. It's just a really nice spectacle fighter or character action game, but side on. It reminded me of DMC Devil May Cry a little bit. And it reminded me kind of like DMC Devil May Cry and also of Bleed 2, or 1 and 2. It looks really nice. It's a cool game. It'd probably take you maybe like 4 or 5 hours to beat the story. And yeah, I think it's like the exact right amount of time that I wanted to spend on that kind of action game. It's not like super difficult, but like it has that Devil May Cry ranking system, so you want to kind of get better and better at it. You can go back to this game. It's got a really nice feel to the controls too. It feels like very, very like a small, very polished game. I really highly recommend this one actually. And the next one is Dr. Dirk's Mutant Battlegrounds. This one's like a little bit of an iffy recommendation, but I discovered it when I was making Nanomon, and I started to look into doing like neural networks and things, and I was like, I wonder if there are neural network games. And then this one came up, and I was like, oh, that's really cool, where you basically like breed and train this little AI like dinosaur to fight in multiplayer battles, and there's still a community of people playing, and yeah, it's just this crazy thing where you're just like training an AI, and it's almost got like an idle game aspect to it too, where you can kind of be like, okay, I need him to train in this way, and you can be like, I want him, you know, to train against this, to you know, to flank to the left when your enemy goes right or whatever, or do this or whatever, and you can just set it to like train on that for an hour, like in the background while you're doing something. It's really like early access jank though, so if you're not like in love with that idea of a neural network AI, maybe give it a miss. It's a tough one to recommend, but if you're just like a real like programmery person that wants to get into that, and you love the idea of a multiplayer monster battler in the vein of like Pokemon or something, but real time, then check it out. Attack of the Friday Monsters. I just want to give this one a shout out. It's quite well known. It's probably the most well known game on. Oh, actually, no, it's not. No, I've got way more well known games. Yeah, there's some coming up. Yeah, I just played this one because I finally got a 3DS or 2DS, and yeah, it's cool. I think it's probably Millennium Kitchen's worst game, which is kind of sad. But it's got mechanically a few more like solid like systems in there, whereas the games that they're known for prior to this were like Boku no Natsuyasumi, and that Shin-chan game, which I haven't played, but looks the same as their other games where you just run around an island. This one doesn't have it doesn't have like the real-time kind of elements, and the exploration is a little bit more limited. It's much more like if you took like those games and then turned them into like a point-and-click adventure game. It's like a slightly more systemic, whatever, system-based point-and-click adventure game, which might be what you want, you know. But it's cool, like playing what is kind of like a very different take on a point-and-click adventure game. Boku no Asami II was actually my second game. I had never played this one before. I played the first one, and then I saw a video about the second one, and I was like, wow, just like, it's just really cool. I started learning Japanese also at the beginning of 2021, and I got really excited to play this game, because it seemed like it wasn't too text heavy. You could kind of infer a lot of things. The biggest problem with it as like a learning tool is it is more of an intermediate kind of game, because it is the text auto kind of progresses. There's not text boxes, which is a shame, because it's the kind of game that I think would be a really great learning tool otherwise. If you don't know what it is, just look it up. It's really hard to explain, but basically, like, you're a little boy that goes on like I think it's like 20-something day vacation on an island in the south of Japan, and just you're staying with some like distant cousins or whatever, and just every day you wake up, you can go fishing, you can go bug catching, you can go for a swim, you can just ride your bike around, and it's got these like beautifully illustrated backgrounds, these pre-rendered, well, not pre-rendered, like they're like that static camera kind of thing, and you can ride your bike around, just coast around the island. You can go and interact with almost anything that a child would be able to interact with, you can interact with, which is really cool, I think. Then these two are like whatever, just Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced 2. I didn't play this game for ages, because people were kind of like, oh, the sequel to Tactics. Oh, like, people are really down on Tactics Advance in general. I really like it. And people are really down on this game, and I think it's definitely got like some things I'm like, oh, it's a shame they took that out of the game. Like, I think the prison system and the card system was maybe one of my more favorite elements of the original Tactics Advance. But Tactics Advance, like 2, it's like, I mean, it does something different. It's like, it does something that the two mechanics would have been mutually exclusive. So it is different enough that I think if you liked the first game or you didn't like the first game, you should check it out. The only thing that kind of sucks about it is the story is basically just like whatever. I think the characters are really cool. I liked the characters, but the story is definitely not as like thoughtful as the first Tactics Advance. So, you know. Then the next one is Mega Man Battle Network 4.5. So Mega Man Battle Network was another series I got really into this year. Oh, last year, 2021. It was, I think, the anniversary of it. And yeah, I don't know. I just got into them. I had a friend who just told me, like, you never played these games? Oh my god. And yeah, they're really cool. They're really nice games. They're just this amazing original idea for a combat system that just, it's like one of those weird things where you can see all the elements that they were just mashing together, and they just mashed them together enough until they basically created a new genre, which is very rarely what happens. You end up usually just getting a hybrid genre, but this is like, was card games and like Mega Man or chess or something, and they mashed them together, and somehow it worked. But so Mega Man Battle Network 4.5 was a Japanese exclusive game that is almost more like a personal organizer or whatever, like a Google Calendar or something, where you can input things and like write little reminders for yourself and things, and it functions as if it is a PET, which is like what the device in the mainline games are. And yeah, you can kind of like do different things on different days of the week. So it'll be like, oh, on Tuesday afternoons, this person will be in this part of the internet, the fake internet, and you know, there'll be a tournament this time on weekends and all this kind of stuff. And I think that was just really interesting to me, making Nanomon, because there was a lot of ideas that I'd had for the game that were really similar to that. And yeah, I really enjoyed playing it. It's a tough one to kind of get working, you basically need to. It was Japan only. You need to find the like English patch for it, patch it a ROM, and then you'll want to play this on actual hardware if you can. But not on a Game Boy Advance. You want to play it on, I'm screwing this up. You want to play this on a 3DS or a 2DS, because then it has like a real-time clock that will continue over. So those systems will like read that you are using a those systems when you're using a hacked like 2DS or 3DS or whatever. They will go, oh, okay, this game originally had battery like saves or like a real-time clock that kept going when the game was off, and it will simulate that, which is what you need from this game. Otherwise, you have to keep changing the clock, and it's kind of unplayable. So I was really excited to play it because I wanted to play it for ages and ages and ages, but I had only been able to play it like on an emulator on PC, which doesn't save things like that way. And yeah, that was kind of my year. So weird one to end on, Mega Man Battle Network 4.5. But yeah, I mean these are all like really solid. Like I was kind of like, oh no, I don't have anything to talk about this year. I didn't play anything. But like genuinely, these are all really solid games. Like all my actual not game of the years. So Clawfish, A Day, Koi Farm, Wild 9, Takeshihiroshi, Crumble, and Loop Hero. But take Loop Hero off the list because a lot of people gave that game of the year. They're all just like, they were all really strong recommendations. Like some years I'm like, oh, I've got to pad the list out, but this is like, they're great games. Go and check them all out. I think they're interesting. And then the ones from not 2021, I'm just like, yeah, definitely like check out like Dreeps. That's the one I want people to check out. And Attack of the Friday Monsters, because that's gonna disappear. It's like $12 or something on the eShop. That's going to disappear in like a couple of months. You're not going to be able to buy it because the eShop is getting closed down. And I don't think that game ever got a physical release. So yeah, go check it and go and actually give them money. It's like, I actually bought that game. I didn't pirate it. Don't pirate indie games or don't pirate small, cool developers that haven't gotten the recognition. Anyway, I've rambled for too long and I didn't script this. So, because it's really late. Sorry it's so late. But I hope you had a good 2021. And I hope you have a good 2022. And a good day. Thanks for listening. Bye.